What's up, YouTube? I'm Guy, and that's John, and you're on our YouTube channel. We're glad you're here. Subscribe to this channel, hit that like button, and you know what's down in the description below.
It's called The Podcast, Guy, a podcast. Down below in the description, go check out the podcast and share it with your friends.
Yep. Coming up on the next podcast, we actually, as we are live on YouTube doing this Deebo video, just recorded an interview with a guy that we really enjoyed talking to, Khalil Shakir.
Yeah, Boise State wide receiver. Just happened to run a 4.35 at the combine. No big deal. And looking to get drafted on the second day. Let's go.
His we didn't talk to you about this, but his nickname is Swiss, like Swiss Army knife. Not Swizz Beats, but Swiss Army knife. And, you know, that's kind of the guy we're talking about now. Deebo Samuel, John.
If that was my nickname, people would think Swiss cheese.
Swiss cheese.
I love Swiss cheese. I like Swiss cheese.
Deebo Samuel has tweeted his latest: train your mind to be calm in every situation. Train your mind to be calm.
Namaste, bro.
In every situation. It did. We've talked about this tweet before. You've talked about it. I've talked about it. So I tracked it down. It's from 2017 from Denny Carter on Twitter. Typical QB tweet. Love my teammates. God is good. Running back tweet. Keep grinding. Wide receiver tweet. The enemy speaks kindly and holds a knife.
They do get the wide receiver can turn into like a Gary V mixed with Tony Robbins fast, right? Because it can be dark or it can be uplifting, but it's usually very deep. It's like, God, there's some meaning behind this. You know, you just take notes on what this guy's pushing.
Train your mind and be calm in every situation.
If you told me that a wide receiver, I mean, you could give me 15 wide receivers, and I'd be like, yeah, I could see them tweeting that. Michael Thomas is, you know, DK Metcalf. AJ Brown doesn't feel like a big internet guy. Obviously, Deebo. Tyreek doesn't feel like he's got that in the bag, really. Keenan. Maybe there's not as many Deebo wide receivers as I thought in the league right now. It feels like there's just a lot of kind of normal ones.
And I think, you know, a diva wide receiver, it can spill over into your play. There's nothing diva about the way Deebo Samuel plays football. I think one thing is clear. We talk about what do tweets mean, scrubbing Instagram, right? We've had that conversation. Deebo's contract's on Deebo's mind. And I think part of the reason it's on his mind is because everybody else, it's one of the biggest stories in the NFL right now. Non-draft, right? And it's going to be one of the biggest stories in the NFL when camp rolls around if he's not there.
Well,
Alpha quotes.
I do think that, for example, Lamar Jackson, right? The guy from his draft who's also sweet, Josh Allen, signed a contract last year. I saw today that John Harbaugh, or maybe Eric DaCosta, maybe did a meeting with the media before the draft, kind of said that we met with Lamar at the end of the season, and we all feel really good. And I think Lamar told him, like, I'll play on the franchise tags. They've just kind of dispelled any weirdness. Where I do feel that Deebo now hasn't personally said anything, though his Instagram's kind of alluded at it. It does just feel there's out there like he wants to get paid and he wants it now. Like Lamar's just like, yeah, I'm good, bro. Like I'll just play this year on the 5th year option. You can franchise tag me. I'll plan on getting my $200 million in a couple years as I bank. I'm going to do the Kirk Cousins route. And I'm cool with that. That does not feel the route. And even like Bosa, it's like, I know I'm going to get a shitload of money. I'm just call me when practice starts because I know the cash is coming. But with Deebo, it does feel like he's, I would just say, buckled up for, for a little back and forth, right?
Yeah. Part of it is that guys just got paid, that Tyreek just got paid, that Devontae Adams just got paid, that DeAndre Hopkins just got paid, right? Even Christian Kirk got richer. You know what I mean?
Really rich, yeah.
Mike Williams got paid before free agency and could have waited and got paid even more. Stephon Diggs just got paid. A lot of receivers just getting paid.
A lot of cash.
A lot of cash. And some of them had to change teams to do it.
I did see someone tweet out today, right now, based on obviously the numbers dramatically increased with those 3 contracts, that the top wide receivers of like the average 11 contracts are the second highest paid guy in the league right now. You know, it always was tackles and pass rushers.
Oh, wow.
Well, these last 3 contracts averaging 27, 26, 28.
Behind, so quarterbacks are 1?
QBs are 1. Wide receivers, top 10, average 23, and pass rushers were 22. So it is,
wow,
because it went for a long time being like, you know, just be careful who you pay. But you don't have to pay wide receivers to now. They are getting broken off like they're Russell Westbrook, right?
Yeah. Also, they've just gotten paid, right? If 4 defensive ends get paid in a month.
Well, there just aren't as many of them too, right? There are more sweet wide receivers than sweet pass rushers.
Well, and that's only gonna. I mean, the last 2 drafts have been stacked
with wide receivers.
Yeah, that average is going to keep going. It's going to keep going up here the next couple of years.
Do you think T. Higgins views himself like a $10 million guy?
No.
Do you think? But just a random guy like that wasn't even in the first round, guy. So his contract's going to come up earlier than CeeDee Lamb's and who was
Justin Jefferson.
Oh yeah, that class. I mean, those two. I would imagine CD and Jefferson are licking their
Ayuk.
Justin. That one's going to get interesting fast.
Well, I mean, Ayuk needs to have a big year. This is a big year for Brandon Ayuk.
Rager,
Jalen Rager. I saw Peter Schrager, no relation to Rager, tweet today. Like, would you do what are the picks like 17, 18, and Rager for 3 or something like that?
Why would the Eagles want 3 though?
Quarterback. That'd be the only reason.
Yeah, my answer was no.
So Warren Sharp, you found this tweet on Tuesday, wrote, touchdown catches in the first 3 years for non-first round receivers. Most ever, DK, 29. 3 more than T.O., 4 more than Tyreek, Marcus Colston, A.J. Brown, Greg Jennings, Mike Wallace, Isaac Bruce, Michael Thomas, Mike Williams since 1990. Deebo, of course, has 21 touchdowns total. Is it 10 receiving, 11 rushing, or the reverse of that?
He has,
10 receiving.
10 receiving is just not very many.
11
but
rushing.
I think this year he would go, I had 6 receiving. I had 8 rushing. That's 14. That's a hell of a year. Right?
Yeah.
14 touchdowns.
And the reason I have I have so many rushing is because that's how you guys get me the ball.
Do you remember when we were in college and LT was just a phenomenon and he would get 25 touchdowns and it'd be a bunch rushing and he would catch a lot too. All that mattered were the total touchdowns.
Yeah.
Deebo, I think, views him I brought 14 touchdowns to the table this year.
Right. Now, I think you'd argue it's passing touchdowns are great because they can let's just cover 30 yards. Now, Deebo actually had explosive rushing touchdowns. So he was explosive. But again, if I'm Deebo, I'm arguing the reason I'm not on this list is because of you guys. And they would say, yeah, kind of. Our passing game isn't explosive, but also you weren't healthy, right? But, if you told me Deebo played with Russell Wilson last year, how many receiving touchdowns would he have had?
Well, if he had played with Russell Wilson the whole time, now it's different because you would say Kyle would get him more rushing touchdowns, but I don't believe he would be at 29, right? I mean, DK is just a much different player. The other thing DK has that Deebo doesn't, DK legitimately was the fastest guy in the league. Same with Tyreek. Same with Terrell. Now, Deebo plays really, really fast, but he's beating a lot of guys. I would say all 3 of those guys have had some of the Deebo plays, right? Where you just throw them a quick screen or a quick pass and they do the rest, which is what great players do. But I would say that DK, Terrell Owens, and Tyreek all had the one-on-one coverage down the sideline for 40, 50 yards. I win, touchdown, me. And the DB is a step or 2 behind me. That is, in fairness, Deebo's just not in those positions. But to me, I would say the majority of our life, that's just known as the greatest play in football, right? The Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, DK Metcalf, go route, touchdown, bomb.
Yeah.
I think Tyreek has been that guy of his generation, and then DK the last couple of years. And Randy's probably the most famous deep threat of all time. Because even Jerry, you would say, you watch that documentary on Montana and Magic Johnson, his play really was the slant to the house. Not that he couldn't run a go route, but Terrell Owens, DK, and definitely Tyreek are go route touchdown guys, which is just Deshaun made it. It's an unstoppable play, right?
So if I said to you, here's a hypothetical for you, and this is not real life, but let's use it to prove a point because DK Metcalf's at the top of this list. And, we view DK's situation right now as less stable than Deebo's, the 49ers and the Seahawks. But DK Metcalf, let me give you some numbers. DK is 24 years old. Deebo is 26 years old. DK has been in the league 3 years. Deebo's been in the league 3 years. DK's played in 49 games. Deebo's played in 38 games. DK we see as the 29 touchdowns, 21 in total for Deebo Samuel. DK's receiving total 29 is his total because he has no rushing touchdowns. So right now, one of them, they both hit the free agent market. Who gets more money?
DK or Deebo?
Yeah.
They both get a lot. It probably does feel like DK Metcalf.
If Deebo played this way and had played as many games, DK's missed no games over 3 years. No games. DK's missed.
That's a big deal. I mean, he's been a pretty durable player.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand preferring wanting Deebo Samuel on your team over DK Metcalf. I can, but
I think AJ. I think the irony is the guy name we haven't brought up that's at 24 is I think if all three of them and they're all three tied together because they're in the same draft class and as someone said on Twitter they're represented by the same person. I think the majority of teams would want AJ Brown over the other two because I do think you could make arguments for DK and Deebo and it's. Again, we are nitpicking elite talents. I think A.J. Brown would just be the easiest if you and I ran a team and we needed a receiver and all three were available that I just know for a fact I can plug and play because it's not then it's predicated on my quarterback being an incredible deep ball thrower or I don't have to risk paying a guy a bunch of money and he basically kind of plays this hybrid running back and he gets injured. This guy is basically just something sweet on the outside and physically just looks what you want it to look like.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, I would say the other thing is Deebo has some injury history. I think DK is viewed a little diva-ish. I've never heard anything about AJ besides just comes to work, balls.
Yeah. Killed the Niners last year, Thursday night. I think it highlights that like if Deebo hadn't missed a game in 3 years, I think it'd be an easier thing to answer. I'd go with Deebo just based on I think he's more well-rounded as a player, even though the one thing that DK does is, about as elite as it gets. I mean, it's terrifying.
And he's only 25, so he can still do that for 5 more years.
Again, it's not to diminish either. I brought it up because you made a point earlier. Should DK actually be the one more upset about getting paid here instead of Deebo? I think the thing with Deebo is he felt like he just carried a team. Leo says if DK were on the Niners, he wouldn't have 29 either. I think that's true. If I'm Deebo, I'd prefer to be traded. You doubt my numbers, but you give me Jimmy. 802 his rookie year is easily 1,000 with a top 15 quarterback.
Wasn't that Jimmy's career year
in 2019?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy was.
I feel like Jimmy was just pretty good that year for the most part.
Jimmy was. God, this thing popped up in my way. 27 touchdowns, 13 picks, 69%, almost 4,000 yards.
But just the eye test, like that Jimmy was better than this version of Jimmy. Just throughout the season. That version of Jimmy, I felt much more confident with than the Jimmy with 7 injuries and the Trey Lance breathing down his neck.
Brandon says AJ's had 2 knee surgeries already.
Well, Deebo's had some injuries.
But injuries and surgeries are 2 different things. Although soft tissue, kind of scary too.
Risky.
Jordan, here's the underrated narrative we need to focus on. Does Kyle Shanahan believe that Deebo will not be used the same anymore? His production will fall off because Trey will be going downfield and likes Ayuk. But it looks like yuck, but it's Ayuk.
Do you know that South Carolina had a squad of J.C. Horn, Javon Kinlaw, Deebo Samuel, and Brian Edwards? That's pretty high-end talent on your college.
Was there a quarterback, the really old guy that year?
No, the guy that played Garcia. Was that his name?
Yeah.
It feels like he was a little before their time.
Oh, okay.
Feels like he was associated with Spurrier, but I could be wrong. But maybe Spurrier actually might have been there a couple years ago, right?
I don't think. No, I mean, they've already fired a coach since Deebo was. Muschamp's already.
Oh yeah. You're right. Muschamp.
So, but I think it's an interesting question to go back to this point here. What does Kyle intend to do with Deebo this year? Ideally, he doesn't have to use Deebo the way he just used Deebo, right? I mean, I'd want Deebo scoring more touchdowns in less high collision spaces. than
But
running
part
the
of
football.
using a guy is in a spot where you can't defend it. So why wouldn't you use the guy like that?
I know that's tough because it's just dangerous. Ideally, your quarterback can throw the ball downfield more, and you don't have to use him that much in those spots.
Well, they pay George Kittle. I mean, now granted, it's relative, but I mean, a lot of money to highest paid tight end. They use him the exact same.
Yeah.
Now it's a little different, right? Tight end lines up, kind of where the tight end lines up. I do think it's hard to be like, yeah, let's just we need a running back. Let's just go with Trey Sermon on this play. You're like, Deebo. You just when you're in the moment, you're not thinking that way.
I know.
And you're in the moment every Sunday trying to win. And the Niners they're not probably unless Trey Lance becomes a superstar, they're not going to lead the league in scoring for a while. So they're going to be in tighter games, right?
And they're just going to have to.
Yeah.
The irony of the Deebo situation, I think this is the catch-22 of the whole thing, is the thing that makes him valuable is also the thing that concerns you. Now, he could argue, well, the year they used me like that, I didn't get hurt. So what are you talking about? But he got banged up. He did get banged up a little bit, right?
He always shook it off.
He always shook it off, but there were some scary moments.
He got destroyed. What game was that? Was it a Cowboy playoff game?
On the run play, running. Oh, that's right. But it wasn't the hit to the head. It was like the ankle. Wasn't that the deal?
Yeah.
Say again. You went slow-mo for a second. No, you froze. Wasn't it? It looked like the hit. Remember, he got held up and cracked. Kind of a cheap hit. But I don't think that was the hit. Are we thinking about the same play?
But maybe there was a Green Bay one too. I can't even keep track. He's got crushed a lot.
Poor running backs. They just have to suck it up. I agree. So, I mean, he tweets. We wait. DK waits. That's the other thing, John. Is somebody else going to get paid? Is there another receiver that's going to get paid? Is DK going to somehow get broken off?
You wouldn't think.
You wouldn't think DK is about to get broken off?
I just think it's going to be a while for all of them.
As in like 2 months or next year?
Yeah, I mean, training camp time.
Right. My point is, does somebody get paid between now and DK's contract? Deebo's contract. Is there another guy that's going to add fuel to the fire?
Terry McLaurin.
Scary Terry. Somebody
Dan Snyder's got the feds and the Congress coming after him though, so who knows?
He's got to move all that season ticket holder money that he kept. $5 million of season ticket holder money.
I said someone's like, it could have been his wife. She's running it.
That's right.
She went rogue.
Yep. Just like it was Jerry Buss's mom.
Could have been his wife.
Yeah.
That'd be incredible if he throws his wife under the bus, which is very possible.
When Trey Lance threw tutties to Deebo, his dance was pointing to his wrist.
What does that mean?
Time. It's pay me time, or is it Trey time? Which is it?
I thought it just means it's
my time.
What did Carlos Correa do? Didn't he do that when he hit a home run in the playoffs?
What does that mean? Fastball's coming?
No, he hits the home run and then he goes, "It's my time." Right?
It's my time. Got it. The best tattoo I ever saw was a guy who it looked like a digital watch, but you know how the digital numbers look with like little breaks between each letter, kind of.
Yeah.
Except when you looked at it, it said now. The time is now.
So every time is right now?
Every time is now. You looked out at the fake digital watch on your wrist and it says the time is now.
Can you imagine being just like, I don't blame Ron Rivera, right? I don't know if he had that many options to be a head coach. The football team commanders, Redskins at the time, offer him to be what he has to say. Yes, they pay him. I'm sure. I think he got like $7-8 million a year. But it's probably not the most enjoyable thing. Your name changing all the time. You got fucking feds coming after your owner. It's like never ends. You don't have a quarterback. It's got to be one of the more difficult jobs going in sports.
Yeah, he deserves for just somebody else to buy the team.
He did, but I mean, I'm just saying Ron specifically feels like high-level guy, beats cancer.
Ron deserves better.
Yeah, everyone likes the guy, but The problem is you get a new guy to buy it for $5 billion. Like, you think Bezos is keeping Ron?
No, you need like Warren Buffett, somebody who just like goes hands off.
I think the NFL wants Bezos to own that team, and I think he wants to own that team.
I think it'd be great for the league. I mean, when we were growing up, football team was a cornerstone franchise, like in the 80s.
I don't remember. I don't. In our life, I don't remember.
Not when we were growing up. I would say 80s though. They were a cornerstone franchise.
A long time. I mean, the A's
Long
used
time
to
ago.
drive 50,000 people in 1988.
No, I understand.
Hell, the Giants used to draw 40 a couple years ago. Now they're doing 22.
Yeah,
Things change fast.
things do change fast. All right. On that note, that's our Deebo conversation. Check out our conversation with Khalil Shakir coming out in the podcast and on YouTube later. He's just interesting guy and a receiver that a lot of teams could use. So I hope you guys give that a look.
Yeah, just also keep an eye on Bob Melvin out coaching Gabe Kapler. Because the Padres are here to stay, and that means the Giants go back to your again. I want
That's
the Giants
bad news
to do
for me.
well.
I have to root against the Padres because of that like internet beef I had with Daniel Jeremiah 2 years ago. So I'm locked in on that. Padres need to
You
suck.
were right in your argument, but the team is really cool. I even forget the argument, but the
Just that
colors
the uniforms
do
are
suck.
ugly. Their brown uniforms are ugly. They're like whatever those things are. I don't know.
All I know is they're going to be they're just going to win, right? They have just struggled. I'm not saying 100.
I think
games,
so.
but they're
I
going to
mean,
be good.
They were supposed to be good last year and they just fell apart. So
Yeah, but now they got a real manager.
I mean, yes, I agree. Bob Melvin's a real manager. I just don't know how much is that really worth if your pitchers get hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I like him better than Giants.
Bob Melvin was a real manager for some bad A's teams too.
A lot of good ones though.
It's true. All right. Later, everybody.